celebrate, guys. Wow. There's a head. I have some new stories for you guys. Thank you all so much for coming by. Yo, chat me up. What's up, Jackson? Ollie, what's up? So I have quite a few more stories for you all. Nothing crazy. I haven't really been out there like that. I haven't been hitting the pass or anything like that. I've been grinding more or less. So I've been kind of going outward and outward. And yeah, just little issues. Cars off sometimes gets out of balance. Let's see, I think I mentioned, I think it was in the last story, but I didn't write it down. It was a win, and I was trying to remember what car it was, so now that I remember. And I told you guys it was either like a Subaru or something, it was a blue. But no, it actually turned out to be a Mazda 3. It was a sky, like a sky blue. And so that one, you know, we went turn for turn, but ultimately, you know, I went through the turns a bit faster. That one was a bit of an old story though. And then that was before. Remember how I told you guys that we won against the Scat Pack and the Stingray. So yeah, you guys might not believe that, but we did pull off some victories against those cars. Really great cars, by the way. So let me pull up the stories here and let me tell you guys what's up. So this just happened recently. I feel like I was helping the community, right? I think this was it last night? No, 2 nights ago, because yesterday I streamed all day, so it kind of gets jumbled up. Let me take a rip real quick. Yo, tell everybody to get in here, because I'm about to tell the stories. Yo, what's up, everyone? Who's that in the chat? Let me go see who's that in the chat right now, so I can say what's up. Pull it up right here. Actually, I could go back up home. Khalil, yo, what's up? That's who it was. What's up, bro? So actually I have some crazy stories because this all happened kind of in one night. You know, it's crazy. Like, there's a lot of drivers out there. You know, it really is. Never really experience it until you're out there driving. You know, for yourself. A lot of people is getting riled up, or you know, they're in that mode. And so yeah, you know, it goes to show it doesn't matter what kind of car you drive. If you're a driver, you know, people will most likely challenge you. And so yeah, I even have some like memorable, honorable mentions. I mean, you know, there's this one time because, like I said, the car hasn't been, you know, fully running optimally, so that's why I gotta baby it a little bit more these days. And yeah, I'm not sure who this person was, but they were like, this is where I told you I did that jump against the guy that pulled that cheap shot on the freeway after I beat him. You know what I mean? Even when the car wasn't working properly. So yeah, that was like last week. And like I said, you know, I'm on the freeway. You know, I'm kind of leading the people right there, right? You know, the traffic's behind me, and I'm kind of going at a pace. I'm flowing, and then you know I see this guy trying to keep up, and you know we enter the bend on the freeway, and you know I'm guessing this guy panics out and brakes, you know, before going into the bend. But you know I just take it full speed, no problem. I mean, cause there was no need to slow down right there. It wasn't a sharp enough bend on the freeway. It's just a slight turn, so in doing that, you know, this guy got all mad. And like I said, this guy, you know, went for a cheap shot, flies right by me like at almost 100 miles per hour, and just, you know, keeps it there. Like, and you know, I'm already barely going half that. If you know, at the speed limit or something like that. And so I'm like, I let him go. I still end up catching up to him too, by not even doing anything. It's crazy. He drove 100 miles per hour just to get slowed down, like ridiculous. And like I said, and he ended up speeding off into the freeway, still trying to go upwards of 100. And he had his lead, his gap. Right, and I let him go. Yeah, I let him go. I was like, nah, I can't get up there because it's not fair, There's no, I can't get the car is limiting itself. I can't do nothing, so I'm not gonna push it. And so I just keep going normally about my way while this guy, zooms out of anger. And it's just the craziest thing. Remember I told you guys on the way, literally on the last straight home, somehow we managed to catch this guy at the red, and that's where we hit him with the jump at the bumps. It was crazy. But it was right around there, and so it happened to be I can't even remember. I think it was an EV, one of them Ravs or something like that. Highlander EVs. And this guy was just getting aggressive, he was trying to do, getting all squirrely with the wheel, trying to get around. So I continued driving normally, but like I said, the car is still not 100% everyone, so I don't really take it up there, because I can't. But we still go, and it's just kind of a similar situation. There's a bend that has a crazy, how do I say it? It's I'd call it a crack, because once your wheels hit it, it's like all the G's drop out from under you pretty much. And if you're not paying attention, and the wheels will jerk on you no matter how much traction you got. So, I saw this guy brake before that bend. I just took it because I know how to do it. And left him in the dust there. Not only that, I beat him in the braking contest too. I just stared him down while I watched him, slam his brakes while I stared him down while I come to a smooth stop, And mind you guys, it's one of them all-wheel drive ones, so these ones have torque and power. And traction. Not only that, those models are lighter, more light. So yeah, no excuses there for that guy. And I kept my cool. But that's an honorable mention. I might not even write that into the story. Like I said, it's kind of similar to the Blue Mazda story, but I'm not really one to I'm not gonna brag about it, be like, oh, I'm better. It's just, that's how it went. This guy tried to follow me, tailgate me, and stay behind me, but he couldn't achieve that. If it was the other way around, I would have stayed right on his bumper the whole time, through the turn, through the whole thing. Stuck to him like glue. There's just a huge difference right there. And so that's, and then coming around the bend, because, he was trying to get aggressive on me, right? This guy lost his cool after being held, for example, I make my stop already and I made it smoothly, and I'm waiting, bro. This guy has, it takes them, sometimes 3 seconds or more to finally make their stop, that should tell you guys that that's how much of a gap there is in the times. Ninja, hi there. Williams, or hi there. And so that's how much of a time gap there is, you know, because they still have to complete their stop, whether they do it harshly or smoothly. That's how it goes. So that was the huge time gap in our stops right there. So, you know, leaving them there and we'll come across the turn. And you know, like I said, this guy was trying to get aggressive on me, and he tried to get like right behind me, but like I said, I'm going, keep your cool, you know, ride it perfectly. Don't, you know, abuse the car, the steering, none of it. You know, ride it like you were driving normally. That's the smoothest way, fastest way. And you know, you see him, you know, and him coming so aggressively, he has to stomp his brakes, and you know, coming into the dip and everything, you know, that slowed his car down even more, because hitting that dip is like a speed bump, right? And when he stomped his brakes, you know, he probably stopped his car by like maybe 10, 20 miles per hour. Almost coming to a full stop, pretty much. And while I just went, you know, no loss of speed, none of that. And so, goes to show. And again, you know, like I said, the time gap, and boom, and it happened like maybe 1 or 2 more times after that, and that was that. You know, I stopped, and he gave up after that. He didn't try any more aggressive moves. He just kind of, you know, he quit. That's how it goes. That was that story. The next one. Alright. So this one was, like I said, continuing on from a couple nights ago. Coming back from helping the community. I'm just coming down a road that I'm not really too familiar with. You know, it has similar flows and vibes. And all of a sudden I get cheap shotted by some Prius Prime guys. Like, I'm like, bro, are you serious? You know, and I'm like, mind you guys, I'm keeping my cool, because the car, like I said, guys, it's in baby mode. And so I'm like, bro, what is with this Prius Prime? You know, you just boom, and then just, you know, hitting his brakes. I'm like, bruh. Coming by, all silently. I had to make the noise so you guys could get the reference of speed. And, man. And so I'm like, alright, I'm not gonna try anything cheap. I'm not. And luckily, you know, right when I thought that, bro, the light decides it wants to turn red. And then I was like, this is perfect. Seriously, because he had one of them brand new Prius Primes, guys. Those things come with some of the top of the line stuff. That Toyota makes right now. And you know, you see this guy start panicking, man. I'm like, I'm just staring at him. I'm like, let's do this. And so I'm just waiting. I just wait for him. I just let him do his thing. And right when he does it, you know, I already know it was probably like a good, maybe, you know, it was a good attempt. He was probably like a good 2-3 seconds too early, but in doing so, you know, I took it at the final second and just smoothly stopped in front. Made it too easy for me. You know what I mean? And it was crazy because behind us, there happened to be I'm not sure what car it was. I couldn't tell at the moment. I was wondering if it was another EV. You know, they have like them new generation headlights, you know, that they just look like lines. And so So I'm like, oh, okay, you know, and then you know, this guy pulls up, you know, pretty sharp right behind the Prius Prime. And then, you know, the Prius gets out of the way. And I'm like, what car is this? And then, you know, he starts trying to take off. I hear, you know, I start hearing it pick up, and I hear a turbo, and I see the thing behind it. It's an N line. Guys, I'm like, oh man, this is a Hyundai N line, bro. This guy wants to go at it. And like I said, all the lights kept turning red after that. Maybe like 2 lights. The first one, you know, I did a smooth stop. He came, like, he tried to catch me at my limit, right? But like I said, I was nowhere near my limit. I was going normally, super normal. Gotta keep her cool, you know. Cali Best Driver Challenge. And then boom, you know, this guy tries to come in front of me, and he literally like pulls his car right over the line. His car goes right over the line, the body. You know, I'm like, dang, bro. And it's a crosswalk. Mind you guys, it's a crosswalk. So if the body or any of the wheels go over the line right there, you know, if there was a pedestrian or something, like there's something there, almost, you know, took it too far, but you know, they're getting hit. It's the facts. And so that was one, you know, and I didn't, you know, I let it slide. I was like, he's over the line, but, and he knows it too, you know, this guy knew it too. And we went again. There was another one. This time I didn't really give it too much effort because I saw him trying to like take off. You know, he was kind of starting to speed a little bit. And when the light came, you know, I'm guessing he abused it because he wasn't able to stop it properly. He was probably like stomped his brakes, and his car was halfway into the crosswalk, man. And I'm like, dang. You know, I rolled my window down. I'm like, bro, the pedestrians are dead. Twice. You know, he just kind of sat there. He reversed his car back, you know. And then when the light turned green, you know, yeah, he kind of had that little drive of shame for a moment, but that was my victory right there. And I signaled him peace because that was pretty slick, I'm not gonna lie. He could have won, but he got too excited. Or who knows? Maybe he had no chance. And that was like me, you know. I'm not even giving it anything, guys. I have to be cautious, and you know, Cali Best Driver Challenge. And yeah, he did his little drive of shame, but I'm sure, you know, I'm sure that kind of ignited something in him too, because he had a nice car, man. That N line easily take down almost any car, man, especially on the track too. Those are no slouch. And so, you know, he kind of, you know, his spirits came back up, you know, because I signaled him peace. It wasn't like, I'm not gonna be like, oh, you know, I'm better than you or anything. It was that's just how it went. You know, he got overpressured and just was in the moment. So his peace, you know, and remember, he has that way nicer car, man. It's the newer car, I mean. So he took off, man. I think put it in sport mode or whatever he did, and like you just hear that thing roaring. You hear the little turbo or whatever noise. It made a turbo noise, and it was pretty sweet. I'm not gonna lie, that was one of my fave battles that I had. But it's a good thing, you know. The engine might not be, car might not be running 100%, but my brakes still work. So, so yeah, that was the that was the catch there. My brakes still work. Don't let it fool you. But the crazy part is because the traction, everything's off, so I have to be even more careful when driving. But that leads us to the next stories. The next couple of stories that really good stuff. Let me see. Ah, yes. So this happened right after, was it? No, this is a separate occasion. It was later in the night. I was on the way. I was helping the community, guys, right? And I just remember, man, it was kind of weird. I'm not gonna lie. It was like this. It was this GR Supra chasing like this Lexus SUV. You know what I mean? Or I think it was a Lexus. I can't remember. No joke, because they both come out of the bend. You know, like all crazy out. You know, it was a intersection. It was pretty much dead because it was almost like really late at night. And you know, I'm like close. You know, I'm coming up to the intersection, literally. You know, and they just kind of come right by. And you know, I get behind them, like, you know, I start pacing. You know, normally. And like 2 cars distance rolling. And then I'm guessing they just took it like, cause I got like the Supra all fired up. You know, he started getting all squirrely. He wanted to pass the Lexus so bad, you know, but it wasn't letting him. And then the thing opened up into a 3-way lane, you know, when you can go right, straight, or to the left. And it was perfect enough for all 3 of us to go into a 3-way braking battle, right? You know, the GR Supra, the Lexus SUV, and me, you know. Hold on, guys. Alright, continuing with the story. And so it opened up into 3 lanes, enough for all 3 of us to go. Enter the 3-way, you know. I could have swerved to the right while the Lexus stayed in the middle and the Supra went left, right? But it didn't go like that, you know. I'm guessing they got panicked because I was closing in on them. You know, like I said, I'm just kind of maintaining pace, but going, you know, like I said, my brakes still work, so I didn't let that, you know, that obviously fooled them. And what ended up happening right there was the Lexus ended up over the line really bad. Like, he braked like super late, but like, you could just see the brakes for some reason just couldn't hold the car, you know. The car couldn't hold the car back, the brakes. It just went over the line, and when it stopped, it was just really rough. So maybe the guy just kind of messed up. He overcooked it. And, you know, right in doing so, that left enough space, because he pretty much moved out of the way. He kept going. And that pretty much brought me almost side by side with the Supra right there. But the Supra got panicked because, like I said, I was coming up on him right there. It was crazy. I was coming up on him, and I literally, we were about to hit side by side stops. It was about to be a tie. You know what I mean? But he panics and he lets off and he runs the stop. And I smoothly stop, and he stops for a sec. He realized what he had done. You know what I mean? They both did. The Lexus going straight, but almost stopped in the middle of the road. The Supra on the left, at the same thing, realizing that they both just kind of, you know, lost their cool right there. That resulted in a real loss like that. I signaled him a peaceful victory. I didn't even say I won. I just signaled the peace because I was the only one that did the full stop. They realized that they lost their cool. And that was probably one of the coolest battles because that involved a Supra and like one of them really high-end Lexuses. You just don't ever expect stuff like that. Like, I'm guessing that was just like meant to be because I'm telling you guys, I was just kind of just going, and you just out of nowhere, they just go, boom. I'm like, whoa. You know what I mean? Like, it just happened to get caught in between something like that and end up winning. I'm guessing, that also reminds me, that could have been, no, man, I think that was them, bro. I remember when I told you guys back then I got into that incident on the track, and when I was stuck out there, there was a red Supra, there was a dude, and he waved me down. He said, hey man, just don't give up, it don't look too bad, and he kept going. He went on his run. That inspired me not to give up, like stuff like that. I forgot to mention that, by the way, too. I did mention that, by the way, and I think that might have been them. So I maybe got the win on that one dude in the red Supra. So that's pretty crazy. They're probably gonna be out hunting for me the next couple of weeks or something like that. And then I think I mentioned this one the other night, right? I was chasing down this one guy, but he kind of really just gave it all. He lost his cool. He started breaking the law rather than keep his cool. And then, he tried to deliberately cause an accident, if you guys remember how the story went. But it was just crazy how I managed to, like, swerve the car, and it was like I teleported. Anyways, or like I phased. But yeah, that's the second to last one. We have one last one, guys. This is the final one. This one just happened. Literally right before I started the stream. It's kind of a good one. It's just a little fun one. But I'll tell it right now. Just take 5. I forgot to mention that they both, the Supra and the Lexus, even though they kind of lost it, I don't think that let them stop. I don't think they let that stop them. It's just something simple. I'm sure they learned from it. Because, right after, like I said, they did the same thing that the Hyundai did. They kind of like slowed their roll. They regained their cool, and then you know, they took off. You know, the Super went, and you know, you hear the how the engine sounds. And he goes, I'm back. Yo, that timeout was unnecessary. You didn't need to do that. Please don't do it again. And so this was the last story, guys. Let me tell you guys this story, and I have to finish cleaning something real quick. But basically, how did this one end up? I'm guessing I was just coming home right now, right? And I was helping, my mom. She's gonna make something, so I decided to get her some of the ingredients she needed. And so I'm on the way back. It's a pretty simple course. A little bit of bumps, a couple of dips. But I think one of the more crucial ones is there's a dip that goes right into a turning lane. So it goes boom, but it swerves left. And it's quite a prominent dip, so there's certain spots you can hit it at, certain spots you can't. Otherwise you'll just hit it really hard. Or you could just go around it. I've seen some people go around it. But I like to go through it because you could gain a speed boost. And so I was like coming up, I was doing my thing. And I take it, but I didn't notice that there was a car that was trying to follow me. And so he kind of like messed up his own line. He was like, oh, whoa. It caught him off guard. And I just went, wow, he went, oh, crap. And he hit the bump and then kind of had to correct himself from making a mistake. While I came to a smooth stop, maybe like a few seconds or more later, by the time this guy decided to get close enough behind my bumper and stop, and roughly too, very rough. The light turned green, so this guy didn't even finish. This guy didn't even make it to the stop. The light turned green on him. I keep going, and he keeps trying to tell me. I'm like, bro, like these are unsafe following speeds. You know what I mean? If something happens to me in the front or something from behind, he's way too close. Right? The facts. That is the facts. It's written in the handbook. And so I'm like, dude, And it's one of them. Man, I'd say it was probably the last generation Camry. It was a red one, right? And this guy. And so he starts getting close to me, but I'm like, all right, I'm just gonna. I know when to make my move. There's really only one or two spots you can make your move. In that little section. And I wasn't sure if he knew it or he didn't, but I could tell by the way he was already losing ground that he didn't. He was trying to get a read, but by the time he did, that's when I made my move. And boom, I put the pace on him. And we end up like I'd say like a bus length, maybe two. By the time I hit my stop, and it takes him like 5 seconds or more. There was your time gap. And then once again, like, and mind you guys, like, I'm not, I have my light on, but I'm at the stop, I'm not like leaning all the way to the right or anything like that. I'm just kind of going, so So I go first, and so this guy, you know, he skips the stop sign, and that's an automatic DQ, by the way. You know, just to try to keep up with me. And I was like, alright, I just keep my cool, you know. I already know what he's gonna do next. There's this next turn, see if he follows me into it. And, you know, I play it defensively, and I just want to see what he'll do. You know, if he either comes in hot from the inside and he tries to take it, or he doesn't. Either way, I ended up guarding it pretty perfectly into the line. And, you know, it was like right like that, and I'm kind of in the middle, and he, like I said, he pretty much did the same thing that the blue Mazda did, but in turn, his car, like I said, those Camrys and whatnot are like way lower, and so I wouldn't be surprised that you know, you can't go too crazy in those. And so, like I said, you know, I do it, no loss of speed, but obviously this guy has to slow down because this car, you know, it dips in, and usually those suspensions are like in between, like stiff and soft, you know? They're like in between. Especially when they're fresh. Like, have you guys ever sat in one of them new generation cars? I remember when like the Honda Accords came out. Dang, I forgot what I was talking about. No, the suspension, you guys, like, that's what I was talking about. Like I said, you know, those things just feel like they could go through anything, right? Like, right, they have just like crazy shocks or dampers at first, but you know, once they go out, just like every other car. So I'm sure, you know, every car feels like that at one point. Maple, what's up? Continuing on. Yeah, you know, that's when I like literally made my move. As soon as he lost all his momentum in the dip, you know, I took off right there. I just stepped on it a little bit and picked up the pace again. 5-car lead or more. Hit my stop, and then, you know, I'm just like, peace, bro, because that was twice, bro. Like I said, you know, trying to tailgate, be weird. You know, can't drive normally, right, that guy? You know, he got skunked driving normally. So, you know, imagine if I was actually putting some effort. And so then after that, you know, and this is the cool part, because like I said, the car is not 100%, so I have to be more cautious. And I didn't mean to do this, but coming around you know, we could have gone again, me and that guy. And I'm pretty sure he wanted to, right? But what ended up happening was the turn right there. There's a huge tree, and it literally has roots going underneath the ground right there at that turn. And it just makes the whole road bumpy and rough. And so I accidentally caught it like on a bump a little bit too hard, and then I turned it, and the car ended up the wheels started spinning, and I was like, oh crap. And you know, I kept my cool, but for a second the wheels started spinning for a second, then it just boom, it caught, and it zoomed me forward a little bit. And I was like, that was pretty cool, but that was not my intention. Because yeah, the TC is turned off, you know, it gets turned off, and I don't really like that. It feels scary sometimes, but only for certain scenarios. Like if I was like actually racing, that's when TC off would be beneficial, but I don't race, guys. I'm not a race car driver. I just drive a regular car. I'm just a regular person. And that was pretty much it, you know, and I was doing it one-handedly too. I had my hand out the window like this, and then the car was there and just decides to, you know, and then I didn't time him out. It literally says he timed him out. It says he was timed out by YT for 60 seconds. You said I didn't, but it literally says you did right here. I could screenshot it. I haven't even been here. Oh, okay. Anyways, guys, I feel like that concludes that part of the story. I mean, it's like we're still kind of in season 4. You know, I just never thought the battles would end up like this. Like, it just feels like it gets better and better every time, and it's not like I'm deliberately doing this, guys. I don't, like, it's just something that ended up happening. I just like where it's ended up. I'm pretty sure you guys all love it too. You guys just had to be there, you know? But yeah, it was pretty cool because like I said, you know, when that happened, the car was still going, so you gotta imagine it was like spinning, spinning, spinning while this guy's trying to go, and then it catches, and then it just goes. Oh crap! Sorry, mouse. I'm sorry. You know, spinning, and then it just catches, and it's like, you know, just puts that 5-car lead back on him. Come on, turn. It's just over. Yeah, that does it. That about does it. I feel like I'm gonna do an exclusive right now. And then... maybe I can do something else. I want to help the community out later, so... Williams here. And so yeah, that's the end of the stories, guys. Mind blowing. More to come. I'm just like gotta, like I said, really keep my cool because anything can happen out there. So peace, everyone. Yo, I hope you guys all have your own Cali best driver stories as well. And I hope you guys have fun out there.